Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event. Fight fans worldwide, you've tuned into the #1 undisputed boxing podcast today. This is the Boxing Breakdown. Now, your heavy-handed, hard-hitting host, Mark Roxey.
What's up, what's up, what's up? Welcome to another edition of the Boxing Breakdown, and I am your host, Mr. Mark Roxey. I am delighted to be with you today, and we have an action-packed podcast for you. We will begin with Alexander Usyk versus Anthony Joshua, which is upcoming on August 20th. And then we will jump into the Saul Canelo Alvarez versus Gennady Triple G Golovkin on September 17th. That is a delight waiting to happen. And then finally, we're going to get into the Joe Smith versus Arthur Beterbiev recap of this past weekend. And without further ado, I would like to invite into the Boxing Breakdown and welcome you, Mr. Harold Hunt. What's up, what's up, what's up?
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm good, brother. What's going on with you?
Oh, man. Boxing is hot as always, man. Some good stuff happened in the past, and we must talk about it.
Yeah, man, we really do. I mean, we have not been in the hole for a while here. We have not been live for quite a while. I think it's been like 2 weeks. We have been crazy busy, man, and good busy. But nevertheless, here we are. Delighted to be with you. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, thank you for being with us today. And and Harold, thank you for being with me today. And if you're watching on YouTube, welcome. Please leave your comments. You can put your comments there. If you want to interact with us live here, you're welcome to do that. And remember to hit the like and subscribe button down below. We would be delighted if you do that, and share the podcast with fellow boxing fans, boxing maniacs. Please share this podcast out there with those individuals. And so, Harold, let's go into Alexander Usyk versus Anthony Joshua, August 20th. What you got, brother?
Well, man, as you know, Joshua's got a new trainer.
Yeah.
Mr. Garcia, as it would be. And he went around the world and auditioned every trainer you could possibly think of.
Right. So what's up with that? I mean, don't you think that's an unlikely pairing? What do you think of the pairing? Let's talk about that.
Well, my understanding of Garcia is he's pretty much no nonsense. And Garcia tends to take your strengths and make you use that constantly. To me, he doesn't shore up all the other aspects. He takes your strength and he makes that strength the forefront, and he forces you to use your strength to your advantage. Where some other trainers at times, they will try to build up every other aspect and bring everything up to par. Right. He's just going to take what you do well and make you do it better so you can be successful. So I think that is a reason why he went to him, because the other trainers are going to try to change the defense and change this and change that and just, try to make him an overall better fighter technically. Whereas Garcia is going to say, this is what you do well. We're going to make this, hone this, so you'll be successful.
Interesting. That's an interesting outlook on that. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think, Garcia has a certain way of working, and his fighters certainly approach fights There's some similarities between his guys, Mikey Garcia, and I mean, there's some similarities between the fighters that he trains. So, what do you think about those similarities, and how those similarities are going to transfer into Joshua's skill sets?
We know Joshua can be active. He can be active if he knows he's not going to get hurt. If he knows that, he's pretty aggressive. You watch any of his other fights, when he feels like he can take the other gentleman's punch, he's going to come forward. He's going to really do well, and he'll move well
Right.
because he does have footwork and all this. For whatever reason, he was kind of tentative against Usyk, and I guess he thought Usyk could buzz him,
Right.
which was really never seen till the last round. And he really wasn't buzzed. He was just getting hit more than he would like to, but he wasn't buzzed. I
Right.
believe this time he knows that this guy cannot hurt him and put him out of there or stun him or anything like that. So his mindset will be different, and he's going to be going for the kill. And I really think he's going to kind of muscle him a little bit. Of course, that's what the world says, but you got to do it effectively. And Garcia knows how to do it effectively. If you look at all of his charges, his own brother is
Right.
kind of a bully type fighter. Get you in the corner, put the work on you, and that type of thing. Not necessarily jabbing, coming in with jabs and all that. Once they get in the pocket, they do work,
Yeah.
and they cut people off.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, if you go back a couple of fights, couple years back now, I mean, I got to go back to 2019. Actually, really right pre-COVID, right before COVID-19 started, Anthony Joshua took on Anthony Ruiz, and he eked out a 12-round decision with him, fighting a guy who likes to move, who has good hands, who's a little faster and a little quicker, and he was able to eke out that unanimous decision win. Actually, it was a unanimous decision. I think the scores were like 118 to 110, 119 to 109, 118 to 110. So it was a win for him. But I guess after that he fought what is his name? Pulyev, Kubrata Pulyev. And in that fight, he stopped Pulyev in the ninth round, just about 2 minutes and 58 seconds into the ninth round. He stopped him. So, now Pulyev was not really, dynamic on his feet in any way. So I get that. And then, in the last fight that he had recently in September 25th, 2021, he faced off against Alexander Usyk, and that was in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in Tottenham. And, that went 12 rounds, but he lost. He lost a unanimous decision, and the scores for that fight were 112, 117, 113, 115, and then 112, 116. So that was a relatively, interesting fight. And now here they are again, facing off almost 1 year to date. It was actually 1 month earlier, but, this is going to take place, I think, on August 20th, right? So this is for the World Boxing Association Super World Heavyweight title, the International Boxing Federation's World Heavyweight title, the World Boxing Organization's World Heavyweight title, and the International Boxing Organization's World Heavyweight title. So these are some serious belts. It's going down. And I think, Usyk in the last fight was dynamic on his feet and fought like a light heavyweight or a cruiserweight for sure. And I think that had a lot to do with him winning the fight. So what is your feeling about that, Harold?
It's going to be a different situation. He's going to be pushed around. He's going to be shoved out the brakes. He's going to be pushed. He's going to be bumped. He's really going to be bumping off this guy as he goes in to fight him and try to score whatever. Joshua is hey, rugby training, whatever you want to say, it's not going to be as it was before. He broke so nicely off the breaks.
Right.
I mean, off the clinches. He didn't do anything abnormally. I mean, not abnormal, but he didn't use any of his size at all, or his nothing. He was totally gentlemanly, if that's a word to say. This
No,
time,
absolutely. He gave him a lot of respect, in other words.
right. This time it's not like that. Not that he's out of bounds, but there is a license in which you can move around your opponent on in the breaks, off the breaks, just around. And he just didn't utilize that part of boxing legally. This time he will be.
Right.
I believe he'll be lowering that shoulder, within the rules and bumping that man off of him. I just think it's going to be a little different, Usyk's going to be bouncing off that heavier, denser man in this fight.
Right. Yeah. No, and I think like, when we talk, we touched just at the top of the show, we touched on the idea that him going with Garcia, that Joshua going with Garcia will make an enormous difference in what you're talking about now. And I presume that's basically what you're asserting, is that, they're going to have a little bit more rough and tumble. He's going to make it a little more physical of a fight, and he's going to take the fight to the ropes. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Not only to the ropes, but just in the middle of the ring. He's just going to be just bumping him and pushing him and clinching and grabbing, and he's just really going to force the referee to really stop it, break it down, slow it down, all that. He has to do that. He has to break this man down just because of his sheer of his weight. But he does have the skills, Mark. You know it. He can actually box.
Yeah. Oh,
When you're an international guy,
Yep.
you got to know how to box. To me, as I said earlier in our conversation, it's got to be his mental aspect. This guy can't even hurt me. What am I doing in here? Let me get this paper. Let me go ahead and beat him up and let me move forward, because this guy just can't hurt me. He's not going to hurt me.
Right. So what do you think the last year has consisted for Joshua mentally?
Oh man, every night in the bed when he's sleeping, he's waking up. It is like, what in the world? He remembered the Ruiz thing. Okay, he got clipped. You can always say, hey, I did get clipped. I got clipped. What can I say about that?
Right.
That's human.
Yeah.
But when I went in there, I didn't even fight. And I was tentative by a smaller guy, and he made me look ridiculous. Oh my gosh. I bet he didn't watch that film for maybe 3 or 4 months. And then all the scuttlebutt. I bet his own mom came into the room because they lived together and said, what were you doing? What were you thinking about?
Right.
I've seen you beat at the boys on the block better than this. What's up with that? Right. I know we got a lot of candid conversations and opinions on that fight, and he took it all into account, I believe.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think it's been eating at him for a year. I think to your point, Garcia, working with a trainer like Garcia, he's definitely going to be more of a physical fight. I think he'll make it more of a physical fight. It's interesting. On the flip side, how do you think Alexander Usyk is going to handle the fight? What do you think Alexander Usyk might do to dominate the fight and to come? What does he have to do to win?
I have to use another fight as a benchmark. Cambosis. He fought his best fight the first fight.
Right.
Charlo, the guy who fought Charlo the second time, he fought his best fight the first fight. Right. Both of those guys didn't have anything for Cambosis is not going to have nothing, and the guy who fought Charlo didn't have nothing because they fought their best fight. Usyk fought his best perfect fight. I mean, it was perfect. Right. It was perfect. He did everything perfectly. The stars aligned for him, and his opponent was a willing, tentative, timid type situation. This is not going to be the same. He's not going to be able to apply the same kind of work ethic, work that he did, because he won't be penalized for moving around. So, in my opinion, he lost.
Yeah. So, okay, well,
He's going to lose, rather.
You think Usyk is going to lose? There's you go.
Will give up the belt.
You just heard Mr. Harold Hunt, professional boxing judge and co-host of the Boxing Breakdown. You just heard him tell you that he believes, right, that Alexander Usyk is going to come up short this time. Now,
Yes.
I'm wondering, what do you think the war in Ukraine has played on this fight? What do you think? I mean, because I know just recently, a couple of months ago, man, he was fighting in the war. So how did he make the jump? I haven't heard that. So I don't really know how he made the jump from the Ukraine, fighting on the front lines alongside other Ukrainian fighters, like Lomachenko and I believe the Klitschko brothers, and there's just a lot of fighters over there that are on the front lines, or maybe they're not on the front lines, but they are fighting. And so, how does that play into this fight, Harold?
Candidly, I'm going to speak.
Yeah.
Yes, he was fighting in the war.
Of
course,
the whole world.
he was fighting in the war. However, he is a national figure of prominence in that country. Yeah. He was absolutely 100% protected. Nowhere near the front lines, nowhere near he could be hurt, nothing of that matter. Okay. He may have hung out with the troops some, but he was taken care of and pampered in such a way, because the last thing you need is one of your icons being hurt or killed in any kind of war. Now, just because his physical body was taken care of by the country, whatever, his mental situation can come into question here, because he knows that he is extremely fortunate. He's been on the front lines. He's seen this and seen that, people lose their homes, yet he has millions. He goes back to a training camp where there's foot massage people and people doing this and doing that. I mean, back into the lap of luxury of being a heavyweight titleist. I mean, he is back in the rare air that he put himself in. Can he make himself say, okay, this is where I am, this is what I have to do? Or will his mind be back on the front? Or will he feel guilty because he has a situation? Or will he believe that he needs to represent his country? Now, this is not a Joe Louis, Max Smelling type of thing with our boy Joshua. That's not even it. So since that is not a motivation, I'm thinking we have to see where his mind is. If you've ever been around war, if you've ever been in a situation where your life can be taken, or people that you know lives can be taken, and the bodies and the smell and the craziness that happens when you're on the pampered or not pampered, Joe Louis or not, or Sugar Ray Robinson or not, they all went over there. Right. You still understand that situation. So we have to see how he handles it mentally. Now, I read some things, I saw some pictures or whatever. I think he's out of it. I don't think he can do. I don't think he's mentally ready. He's seen too much.
Wow.
He feels too privileged.
Yeah. That's heavy. That's heavy talk, man. I mean, look, if you look at them on paper, right? If you just study them on paper, Alexander Usyk is ranked number 2 in the world. Anthony Joshua is ranked number 4 in the world. Usyk is a southpaw. Joshua is an orthodox fighter. Usyk has he's 6'3", and Joshua has the height on him at 6'6". So that's one. Here we go. All right. The reach is 78 for Alexander Usyk and 82 for Anthony Joshua. So he's got the reach on him as well. And as far as the records are concerned, Alexander Usyk is 19-0 with 13 KOs. Anthony Joshua is 24-2-0 with 22 KOs. So on paper, it really is a one-sided fight on paper when you look at it. But you have to remember that Alexander Usyk is not. I don't really necessarily agree with the concept that was his best fight. I think what it is that this guy Usyk is just a tremendous fighter, tremendous competitor, and he had a tremendous amateur background. So you're not just dealing with a typical, what you would call a typical rising heavyweight who oftentimes doesn't have the level of competition or pedigree that someone like Alexander Usyk has, that he's developed over many years, particularly in his amateur background, his amateur pedigree, and being trained in, the Ukrainian system obviously has some advantages worldwide, right?
True that. But he was a bully in all his other fights that he won at his regular weight. He was undisputed at that weight. He pushed people around. He was the bully. Bully. Right. So this time he's not going to be the bully. He was even the bully with Joshua in his last fight. So he was still fighting in his own arena. This time he won't be. Now, I got to go back to it. Kobe Bryant. And I say that because when he was going through that court trial, he would go to the trial, he would get on that plane, he would fly back to those games, and he would ball out because that was his only way of any kind of sanctuary.
Yeah.
And then he had to go back to the trial, sit there. His life was on the line again. But then he'd get back on that plane, fly back, drop on that court, and he would ball out because that was all he had. Right. So if Usyk can do that, I can understand. If he can do that, that is definitely an advantage. But if he can't, but war is crazy.
Yeah, man, it is crazy, and you're totally right. And we're gonna find out. This fight is just around the corner on August 20th. Man, I cannot wait. Are you excited about it?
I can't be.
Tell me why.
Because my outlook is still pretty. I'm looking past who Josh was going to fight after this.
Right.
Because I just don't see him in a situation where he could do it again.
Right. No, I get that. I
know I'm dry and it's not fodder for our video podcast, but hey.
Right.
I'm
excited for it, man. I love to see the heavyweights go at it. I really do. So I'm excited about the fight. I really am, Harold. I think the fans that are listening in today, they certainly are tuning in part because they wanted to hear, our predictions on Alexander Usyk and Anthony Joshua. It's a big moment,
Well, I did offer it. However, the referee is going to be a big part too, so we don't know who the referee is. Right. That is always a huge part. And fans, I've learned a long time ago to look at who the referee is, what their tendency is. And if their tendency is to break, or their tendency is to be involved, or their tendency is to leave them alone, we just don't know. And that tempers the fight so much. So right now we can speculate on what we think, but that one straw that is yet to hit is who will the referee be? And then I'll either get excited or not.
Right. Well, listen, this is a big fight. It's worldwide. It's a big fight. For those of us in America, maybe it's not as big. It is put on by Eddie Hearn, DAZN, and the folks over there. And it is going to be a pretty amazing fight. It's taking place in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. And I believe I heard offline that the site fee alone was like $80 million, Harold. $80 million to put this fight in Saudi Arabia.
Oh yes, the fit and finish is outstanding. The sheer fiscal power and clarity is just out. There's no way around it. It's a spectacle financially, no doubt, no doubt.
And I know this is a tough pill for Eddie Hearn to have swallowed in the first fight. Okay, so we know that. We know that Eddie Hearn was not happy with the outcome of the first fight, and he's gone on record publicly to say that he really wants Anthony Joshua to damage Alexander Usyk. And I believe that's part of the rationale for going with Garcia, believing that Garcia can show him some rough and tumble, like get in his head and be like, yo, listen, we're not going to fight him the way you fought him in the first fight. We're going in there and we're going to damage this dude. I think that is part of this little dynamic here. Thoughts?
I agree with that. Totally. I mean, we have to see if Joshua can actually take on that that persona because
Right.
he is very wealthy. He is classy to a fault.
Yeah.
Uh, he would need to get beat up a lot in sparring. I
Right.
mean, he's got to be humiliated daily for him to get that kind of edge on him. So when he goes to Usyk, he'll fight because if
Right.
he's winning in the gym, if he's the boss in the gym in this whole training camp, it could be an issue.
Right.
Garcia's got to be bringing in people who are kicking his butt constantly.
Yeah. Right. Well, Harold, it's just about time, brother, that we jump on to our Saul Canelo Alvarez versus Gennady Golovkin Triple G. That's happening on September 17th. So let's get into that. I know we've had, if you didn't hear our breakdown that we did prior to this podcast, we did touch a little bit on the fight, the upcoming fight on September 17th. It is of course, the third fight. There's a lot of media going now. There's a lot of stuff happening around the two camps. And I just wanted to get your view on that, Harold, and maybe we could open up a discussion on the details of that fight.
Canelo's in a situation, I believe we said before, he needs to save face, which he should be able to do, I
Right.
believe. Triple G is definitely going to come in and fight as well as he can. But I think eventually, as you get in the later rounds, just the father time type of thing, I know you just can't summon for that to happen, but it can happen. And I kind of saw it in the fight with the Japanese guy.
Right.
Who was landing a lot on Triple G. He was landing, it was some of his best work. He just was out punched, but he was landing. And you cannot be open like that with Canelo. You just can't. Yeah. I mean, if you're rocked and back and forth, you may not go down, but the ref can jump in, so that kind of thing can happen. So his defense to me has waned. Yeah. Alvarez, definitely. So I think it's going to be open
Golovkin.
for that.
You mean Golovkin?
Yeah. Triple G. His defense has waned quite a bit. Right. Thank you for the correction. Absolutely. So I think he'll be open to get hit a little more by Canelo. Yeah. And Canelo is in a situation where he's got to save face. So, and Mark, as you know, that body work is very satisfying to a fighter. Going to the body, it just feels good. It just feels good getting in that position, throwing that punch. I mean, it's great. It's therapeutic. It helps you just.
It's delicious.
It is. And he's going to be going for those delicious punches on that man because he wasn't able to land him on his last opponent, right? He's coming off a loss. He's hearing all this scuttlebutt about, well, you're not this, you're not that anymore. You're this, you're not that. Yeah. He's going to be going to the body with a vengeance.
Yeah, no, Canelo always goes to the body, number one. So, I mean, no matter who he fights, he's always ripping that left hook to the body. He's coming up the middle with the uppercuts. He's very, very diversified, coming down to go up and going up to go down. I think when it comes to, Triple G, I just want to go back with what you touched on. You're talking about the fight that he had back in April of 2022, where he fought Ryota Murata, where Murata got some really great shots early on in the fight, right? Golovkin TKO'd him, but he was landing shots, and to your point, that kind of exposes him, right? Is basically what you're trying to say in a different way. I'm saying it in a different way, that Golovkin is exposed. And I agree with that. I think let's just go to the tail of the tape, if you will. The tail of the tape, right? Canelo Alvarez is ranked number 1, and Gennady Golovkin is ranked number 1 as well by certain sanctioning bodies. Alvarez is 32 years old, and Gennady Golovkin is 40 years old. Triple G is 40, the big 4-0. Yeah, they're both orthodox fighters, so they both are fighting, with their jabs closest to one another. And, the height for Canelo Alvarez, I believe, is like 5'8", and Gennady Golovkin is 5'10". So, Golovkin does have a little bit of advantage on the height. I'm not sure if it's really an advantage because of the way he fights. And, Canelo loves the body. So being low in that low stance, tucked up, turtle-like is going to be, Canelo's mode of operandi, if you will, right? The records are 57-2 with 39 big wins coming by way of KO for Saul Canelo Alvarez. And Triple G is 42, 1 loss, 1 draw, and 37 wins coming by way of knockout. So they both have fought great competitors. I do believe that on paper, and this is just, looking at the fights on paper for the last 10 fights, I do think that Canelo Alvarez has faced a tougher competition. That's where we are. Does Gennady Golovkin have an opportunity to dominate? Yes, he does. If he faces the kind of Canelo Alvarez that showed up in his last fight at a higher weight class, fighting against, a fairly decent opponent, a good opponent, he had a lackluster performance. It was not a good performance for him. And I think if that Canelo shows up, Triple G has a very, very good chance of winning the fight, skill for skill. If the same Canelo Alvarez shows up that showed up for Sergey Kovalev, right? Which, by the way, Sergey Kovalev was on his way out. So, but if he shows up like that, or if he shows up like he fought Callum Smith or Anvai Yildirim or Billy Joe Saunders, Caleb Plant, if he shows up like those guys, like he fought those guys, I think he has, he comes out with a dominant performance. Harold.
I agree with that totally. The thing to me is he's going to go to the body, as you said, but I think he's going to have a little more oomph on that. I really saw him have to fight when he fought Triple G the first time. He really had to fight. Yeah. And he fought. Yeah. And then the second time he fought, he went ahead and did what he usually does, and he won. So right. I see this as a continuation of that with a man who's a little more pliable, actually. And he's got a lot more to prove. And Canelo was I don't want to say he was out of shape for this last fight, right, but he'll definitely be in great cardio shape this time. Yeah. I don't think he'll be winded at all because he wants to really redeem himself.
Yeah. No, I mean, do you happen to know when Gennady Golovkin turned pro? Do you happen to know that? The answer.
No, please let me know.
I'm trying to think of what year. I think it's probably something like somewhere in 2006, right? I was just doing a comparison between that. I just looking up some stats here. And so yeah, it was 2006 that he turned pro, right? You know where I'm going with this. And if you've been listening to the other episodes, the past episodes, you will hear, some of my hypothesis on this, right?
Yes, it's good.
So, we talk about a man's age, but in boxing, we cannot just speak about a man's age. For example, Bernard Hopkins. You cannot just talk about a person's physical age. What you have to also do is you have to also go back and look, right, at the tenure and the time they've spent in the ring and the caliber of fights they've had to also talk about a fighter's age. It can't just be the number, the age that they're at. Like, oh, he's 40. Okay, that's fine. But is he worse for the wear? Has he really taken a lot of damage in both amateur and pro fighting? Where are they? So in looking at that, the one thing I discovered, Harold, is that both of these fighters are the same age. Even though, Canelo Alvarez is 32 in physical age, and Gennady Golovkin is 40 in physical age. They both started their pro careers roughly like 6 months apart from one another. So they are, in my view, they are equal in terms of that age, even though Canelo shows up as being a much younger fighter. And certainly, if you just go on skill sets alone and you compare, you got to be careful with that, because we've seen a lot more of Canelo Alvarez. So Canelo Alvarez is stuck in our heads a lot more than Gennady Golovkin is, because we've seen him fighting a lot more. And there's lots of hubbubaloo around Saul Canelo Alvarez. What do you think of that point that I'm making?
Good point. The first time you said that, I definitely did not see it, and I rebutted wholeheartedly. But at this time, I'm starting to see somewhat what you're speaking of, because Triple G knocked a lot of people out early. Didn't take a lot of punishment.
Right.
He got to him easily. He was able to do what he wanted to do. He didn't have to adjust too much, and he would just kind of take him out. He had the knockout streak was phenomenal, and he had a lot of highlight reels because he was taking these guys out. He wasn't taking any punishment.
Listen,
Canelo, please.
I want to support your thought there. I just want to tell you that Gennady Golovkin, so he started fighting in 2006, Harold. And his first unanimous decision was against Daniel Jacobs. And that was in 2017. That was his first unanimous decision. And then after that, guess who he fought? Saul Canelo Alvarez for a split decision. Draw. Right? After that, he goes back and KOs Vance Morrison, sorry about that. And then again, he fights Saul Canelo Alvarez and he loses. After that, he goes back and he gets another KO. And then he gets Derevyanchenko, unanimous decision. Kamel Zameta, and he stops him. Then he fights Raul Murata, and he stops him in the 9th round with a TKO, even though he got touched up a little bit. And here we go, back to Saul Canelo Alvarez. So what you're looking at is a devastating knockout puncher. This guy has fought everybody, and everybody has suffered the fate of a KO, a TKO, RTD, or some sort of, and most of them were early on, in the fights, most of them. There are a couple of, last round knockouts, but most of them were inside of 6 rounds. Most of them were inside of 6 rounds, with maybe like 3 or 4 of all the fights he's ever had. So actually 5. Okay, 5 here, 5. Yeah, about 5. So, I mean, that says a lot about a man's career. And I think that when he had a falling out with Abel Sanchez, that really put a giant monkey wrench in his career. And a lot of what's occurred in those years since he, stopped working with Abel Sanchez. And there was a real like, oh my God, what do I do? Like, my career's over. How do I start it up again? And there was a lot of futzing around with his career there. So I'm not counting out Triple G. I'm not. I think Triple G, for all intent and purposes and everything that we've just discussed, for the reasons we just discussed, I'm taking a deeper dive and a deeper look at this fight, because I think there's more there than meets the eye.
Dude, you're working on me. You're working on me, man. Canelo had Mosley. Canelo had Cotto. Canelo had Floyd. Canelo had some people who were champions, who he had to figure out, who he just didn't just beat them up. Yes, he beat Mosley. Yes, he beat Cotto. Yes, he lost to Floyd. He wasn't beat up by Floyd, but he had to fight those other guys. And if you look at his record, he did fight some seasoned guys who know how to fight, and he just had to overcome them. So he was in somewhat of some serious fights from time to time, as long as they lasted. So if you want to look at wear and tear, being in a ring with those kind of guys, back to back to back, it can be wearing. I must understand and see that. Truly, I must see that. However, what you just said, when he left Sanchez, he started getting touched up.
Right.
And when you start getting touched up, your age in the ring per fight can get accelerated.
Yeah.
I would like to see less clearly that he is still vulnerable because that discipline left. I always got to go back to Floyd. Floyd had the Cotto fight. He dropped Roger. He went to his father so he could be defensively minded. And he got 8, 9, 10 more fights out of his career because he changed his philosophy and became that type of fighter. Whereas, as you said, Triple G had to flounder around and figure out how he's going to continue to be successful. And with that, he may have opened himself up to more punishment.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. I mean, just touching on Canelo Alvarez, I think one of the interesting things is that you're right. I mean, he started out in 2006, right? He started, I think, when he was 15, 16 years old as a pro. So, he's been fighting for a very long time as a pro, not as much of an amateur background as a Triple G had, but certainly a lot of ring experience in the pros. And then, it's not until 2011 that he starts to really fight named fighters, people that are really, really well known and that are on the national boxing, pro boxing circuit. For example, he fights Alfonso Gomez, was one of his first fights, and he stops Alfonso Gomez. Then he gets into Kermit Citron, who at the time was a beast of a fighter. And he TKOs Kermit Citron, steps up and fights Shane Mosley, Josecito Lopez, Austin Trout, Floyd Mayweather takes his first loss as a professional fighter against Floyd Mayweather Jr. He fights Alfredo Angulo, TKOs him. He fights Arislandi Lara and gets a split decision win, which some people thought he lost that fight. I know that's a sticky subject. I know if you guys are listening in right now, I know some of you are like, yeah, he didn't really win that fight. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure I touched that. James Kirkland, who at the time was, pretty much a beast of a fighter. He stopped James Kirkland with a vicious right hand, putting him down. After that, he fights Miguel Cotto, Amir Khan, Liam Smith, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., Gennady Golovkin gets a draw. Gennady Golovkin, he gets a win. Then he fights Rocky Fielding, Daniel Jacobs, Sergey Kovalev, Callum Smith, and the rest of the story. Yildirim, Saunders, Plant, Bivol takes another loss to Bivol, but he fights him at 175 pounds. So now he's back with Gennady Golovkin here. So my hypothesis is that how much these is just a question, right? These are questions, my friends. How much punishment has Saul Canelo Alvarez taken? And have we seen the best of Canelo Alvarez, or is the best yet to come? That's the question, Harold.
As far as the skill set is concerned, I can't see him adding anything new to it.
Right.
I can't see anything. He just needs a point where he can apply the expertise of that skill set properly. Couldn't do it with our boy, his last fight. That just wasn't going to happen there. But here, he can apply his skill to a willing uh, and receptive fighter. So I see him really doing really well. I mean, he has the motivation to redeem himself. I mean, this is big stuff when you lose. I mean, it's not the Duran thing where he got banished to Miami and couldn't go home and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
But it was, he's still sitting behind them gates in Mexico, like, I don't want to go out.
Right.
You know, they love me, but
right.
I'm just not comfortable with that because I did lose.
Yeah.
So that is a huge motivation. And he's young enough to still be emotional about it and add it to his understanding of the fight.
Okay.
If he was an older fighter, maybe he realizes, well, I don't need to be all entwined like that, and I just need to go in there more business-like. But I think he'll be a little emotional, and that emotion is going to kind of drive him a little more.
Right. All right. So let's talk about skills here. Skills, my friends. Skills pay bills. All right. So let's look at the skills here. Let's break it down. All right. Who has the better jab? Canelo or GGG?
I would like to say GGG.
Interesting. Okay. GGG's got a dynamite power jab.
Power
jab. Like a slingshot power jab. Yeah. I could see that. I definitely think that I would have to agree with you on that. I would. I agree that if you put jab up against jab, I probably would give Triple G's jab maybe like a 20 in power, 20 power, right? And I give Canelo probably like a 17 in power jabs, right? So 2017, right? That's where we are, right? Who has the better right hand?
I would say Triple G also, because of that European style or whatever you want to call, which is usually that right hand in that the type of discipline. So I see that. Yes.
Right. Who's got the best hook?
Well, we have to go with Canelo. This is
all arguable, of course. I know you guys are out there scratching, throwing things at the TV, throwing things at the YouTube channel. I know you guys are like, okay, Canelo fans are going nuts right now. Okay, who has the best hook?
Well, we know Canelo really knows how to arc that hook, and he throws it in his power zone. It's not reaching. It's the torque on his footwork and his hips and the torso. That thing is nice. So yes, Triple G does have a hook.
Who has the better hook, Harold?
Canelo Alvarez, without a doubt. Right. The mechanics are flawless with that hook.
So we've got Triple G with one tool a little better thus far. Okay, here we go. Who's got the better body shots?
I have to go with Canelo again because he will go to either side at any time. He throws them when he's on his toes.
Right.
He's just really his body shots, are pretty vicious.
We are breaking this thing down for you, aren't we, folks? Aren't you picking up what we're picking up, right? So, who has the better defense?
Canelo. He's learned it over time.
Yeah. Good. I agree with that. I cannot argue with the fact that Canelo has the better defense. He's got a slicker defense. Okay, definitely. Who's got the better chin?
That is such a toss-up because allow me some room. Triple G has been hit squarely many times and didn't fluster at all, and that is the case. However, so has Canelo, and Canelo has never been really rocked. I saw a couple of pieces of footage where he was rocked
early on
a while back.
Sure, yeah.
Yes, but that was before he really got his discipline in, and now you don't even get a chance to hit him like that.
Right. Mayweather
As we
touched
said
him up pretty
before,
good.
yes, but that was no power. He just was
Right.
cleanly, he got to him. But as we said earlier, Triple G was hit by the Japanese fighter, which
Yeah.
was, concerning. But so if you want to say the best chin, got to go with Triple G again,
Okay.
only because we've seen him hit and not wavered. Whereas Canelo, we haven't seen him hit, so we can't say how
Right.
well his chin holds up.
Exactly. No, I agree. I agree. That's a great assessment. And for those of you that are listening in, if you have an opinion and you want to share that opinion, come on, put your comments down below, right down there, and we're live right now. So if you want to jump in on the conversation, let us know. Just type your message and we'll see it and we'll post it up here and we'll share it. But yeah, man. So, okay. So we've talked about that. Who's got the better footwork?
Oh, Triple G by far.
All
That
right.
European style causes that type of back and forth and round
Yeah.
and he was in the same camp with the other fighter. His name escapes me. Put a gun to my head. I'm dead. The gentleman who utilizes the ballet discipline.
Lomachenko.
Lomachenko.
Sure. Yeah.
So all of that bled into his footwork also. I mean that whole style. So I believe the father was there. Lomachenko's father was there, and everyone was involved in type of thing. So yes, he has the best footwork because Canelo does tend to step in potholes and get
Yeah.
stuck from time to time.
So, okay. So we can get into rhythm. We can get in who controls the distance better. Who has a better
I would
command
like
of distance?
I would like to say Canelo is his distance is great because even in his last fight when he was losing, he wasn't in harm's way. He just couldn't land what he needed to land. And when
Right.
he went in to try to land, he got hit coming out. So he wasn't buzzed, he wasn't hurt. He just got in a situation where he was like, I can't really solve this. It's not hurting me. It's not upsetting me. He's just touching me. Whereas our Triple G was getting hit. He was like, okay, I'm throwing, but I'm getting hit too.
Yeah.
And I don't really have an answer for it. I'll knock him out, but I don't really have an answer for why he's continuing to land on me. I'm not changing that. I just
Right.
got to him before he got to me.
So who's Triple G training with right now?
The name of the trainer escapes me.
Okay, well, if you know that, please put that in the comments, everybody, who he's training with, because I know I don't believe he's back with Abel Sanchez, but if he is, that would be
No, he's not.
he's
No,
not.
he's
But
not. He's
that's
not.
unfortunate because Abel Sanchez was a mastermind. He was a brilliant is a brilliant trainer, and of course, trainers. There's a lot of really brilliant trainers that have great things to add, but working with the likes of a Triple G really highlights your skill sets, for sure. But I guess the question becomes, if you put all that together and you mix it up in a bag, who you have winning?
Well, preliminarily, of course, I like Canelo to win the fight. I think it'll go. I think it'll go on points. He'll win on points. It won't be a knockout. It'll be some great rounds, some back and forth rounds, and that type of thing. And I just think he'll win on points. And Triple G will be no worse for the wear. He can go on to have 4, 5, 6 more fights possibly if he wants. He maybe even snatch a title back and forth again. But I don't think he'll fight Alvarez again. But I don't think he'll be successful.
This is it, Harold. This is the three-peat. This is the third of the series, and I definitely think whoever, quien es más macho aquí is the one who wins. The guy who wins here is it's going to go down in the record books as the winner of that trilogy, and this is for all the marbles for both of them. I would also add that this is going to be the biggest payday for Triple G that he's ever gotten. So at the age of 40, with what he stands to gain out of this fight, it's just tremendous. Not to mention that he has a chance of winning the fight. He's not a fighter you should count out by any means. And if you just go back and look at the other fights, these guys know each other. This is going to be a great fight because they know each other. Right? They do. And when fighters know each other, you can always expect a higher level of dexterity and a higher level of competition because they're willing to trade shots. They're willing to get in the pocket. They're willing to fight at a step. They're willing to be up close with each other, up close and personal, delivering their best shots. Imano
In the pocket.
Yeah, man. So this is going to be a great fight. And I'm really, really looking forward to September 17th, although we have tons of action coming up in September, which we'll talk about just as we round out the show today. But I do want to come back to a fight that took place this past weekend against Joe Smith and Arthur Beterbiev, and we'll do a quick little recap on that before we touch on the upcoming schedule. So Harold, talk to me about the Joe Smith and Arthur Beterbiev recap. Let's go.
It was such a contrast in styles. Now you got Joe Smith, a blue collar guy, and his fight style is a blue collar type guy.
Right.
It's blue collar. He's coming straight ahead. He is throwing his punches with no protection. He's throwing that right hand, that left hand is down. He's throwing that hook, that right hand is down. It is the quintessential in the street, blue collar, defense be damned type of style. And there's no side to side. It's coming forward. I'm gonna take your punch to give mine. Simple. Whereas Beterbiev's style is honed strictly because the Olympics causes you to fight so many different styles. You have to understand footwork and dexterity and point systems, and I mean how to garner points against different styles from all over the world. Right. So he definitely gets that. Then he's got that European style, which is just aggressive, technically aggressive. Right. And on top of that, he's a puncher, and he's got that nasty heart where he wants to take you out. So for him, this was easy. And you can see how easy it was because you look at the knockout, how the knockout came. Joe was throwing the punch with both hands down. He was throwing his best punch, all of that, and he got clipped. Bam. Because he's not defensively responsible because he never had to be, and he was never taught that. And he's not going to pick that up. And his style says, this is not a piece of what we do. Right. And because of that, he got clipped.
Yeah, man. Joe, well, first of all, for those of you tuning in, here you go. Arthur Beterbiev is 18-0 with 18 big wins coming by way of KO. This is not a guy that you want to mess around with. Arthur Beterbiev is a serious fighter. By the way, he's originally from Russia. He's from Kazakh Russia, and he's fighting out of Montreal, Quebec. So he's up there fighting with an amazing team, training with an amazing team up there in Quebec. And the guy is just a devastating power puncher. The punches that he throws, if you go back and you look at his fights, he lands these punches, these thunderous punches. Everything he hits you with hurts. Even when he's hitting your gauntlets, he's hitting your gloves, he's hitting your, the top of the soft part of the glove, hitting your arms. Wherever the guy hits, it's hurting. And it takes a lot out of you. He's that kind of heavy-handed puncher, power puncher that really is not someone to take lightly at 18-0. So, Joe Smith, who, Joe Smith is a great fighter. He's not, I can't say enough good things about Joe Smith coming out of Long Island, New York, Holland, New York, but he's a great fighter, but he couldn't stand up to Arthur Beterbiev's power. And I think part of it was, Harold, in the fight, particularly in the first and second round, I don't know why Joe Smith kept, fighting defensively to his left, because Arthur Beterbiev's most powerful punch is that looping right hand, straight right hand. He finds a way to bring that right hand around the gloves and land it. And it really was just too much for Joe Smith. Harold.
Yes, I love the reference fights. So this is another one. Vic Darchinian
Ooh,
and
Nonito
and
Donaire.
Donaire. Okay.
Yeah.
If you remember Darchinian's run, he was smashing everybody. He got to the point where all of a sudden he was in a situation where he was getting hit so clean and he had no answer for it. And that's what I saw. I
Right.
saw a situation where he's not used to, even though he lost to Bivol, he was still landing his punches and he just lost on points. He wasn't hurt. He was just couldn't, he was landing, but he
Right.
just couldn't. But with this gentleman, when he went in there, he just didn't have an answer. And he was shocked that he was even getting hit that clean when he was hurt. So I agree with you totally. It was exactly as you said. It's exactly as you said.
Yeah, man. And I mean, I love the reference between Victor Chinian and Nonito Donaire. I haven't really thought too much about that fight. But that, Harold, that was an absolutely amazing fight back in the day. That took place on, it was like in 2007 that fight took place. And I remember the fight distinctly because I remember how brassy Victor Chinian was coming into the ring. And he was just, fighting with his hands down. He has like one of those really, really fan
Favorite style.
fan favorite style of fighting. And when they fought, it was a 12-round fight. Victor Chinian fought Nonito Donaire. This is what we're talking about. And Nonito Donaire was walking through people. He had got 17. He was 17-1 at the time. 17-1 when he had that fight with Victor Chinian. And Victor Chinian was 28-0. Right? He was 28-0 and he was stopping people TKO, TKO, TKO. Like the 5 fights before he fought Nonito Donaire, they were all came by way of TKO. Every single one of the fights. So you think about that. He had fought a better set of opposition at the time. And when they fought each other, I think Nonito Donaire was, I mean, naturally a little nervous about that fight. But look at the outcome of that fight, Harold. That's a
Yes,
great reference,
yes.
man.
Thank you. Nonito was sound fundamentally. He was a puncher, but he was sound fundamentally. The
Oh,
defense, the offense, the delivery of the punches. He had soundness in his style, whereas Vic didn't have it, and that's what I saw with Joe Smith and Beterbiev. Joe didn't have
yeah,
a sound type of offense, and
right.
Beterbiev did, and he had the power.
Right. Well, I mean, you could say that. You could definitely say that. I mean, yeah, because going into the fight, he had, Joe Smith had a couple of losses on his record.
Yeah, but those losses weren't of any consequence. They were dismissed because
Yeah.
he wasn't beat up, he wasn't knocked down. He just lost on points. And if you look at his style, you'll give him those losses. I mean, I give him those losses because I know how he fights. And this time, this wasn't what it was. But he wasn't beat up. He wasn't dejected. He
Right.
wasn't mentally crushed. None of those. So to me, in a sense, he was still undefeated in my mind. He was defeated in
Right.
this fight.
He had only been TKO'd one time. He was TKO'd back in his first, like inside his first 10 fights. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So like in his 8th fight as a pro, he was TKO'd. He was TKO'd in the 4th round, 4 of 6. It was a 6-round fight, and he fought Eddie Caminero. That was the guy's name.
It doesn't
And
count, and Caminero is of no consequence right
no,
now.
no, no, no. I'm just bringing up the point that you're making, which is, yeah, that was a TKO for Joe Smith. And after that, everything else was, I mean, the 2 losses that he had, the only other 2 losses that he had were both by unanimous decision losses. And I think, the scores were, I mean, Demetrius Bivol, the scores were lopsided because Bivol dominated that fight for sure. And then the fight against Sullivan Barrera, That was a very, very good fight, much closer, but it was still 92 to 97, 92 to 97, and
Yeah.
93 to 96. So it was a little closer, but it was still a dominant performance by Sullivan Barrera. And
It was.
yeah. And so, I mean, at this point, what you're really dealing with is you've got a situation where, he was just outclassed. He was just fighting a monster. It's like, Mike Tyson fighting a Larry Holmes. And while Larry Holmes was aged at the time during that fight, Tyson just walked through him. And it was very, very similar to see Arthur Beterbiev just walk through him. It was similar. It was a similar kind of like, I'm just going to walk through you and bust you up. And he did that. He did that on Saturday night. So, yeah.
It was nice to see that kind of power just shockingly on the other guy. I like when I see the other guy like, what was that?
What the heck?
I mean, where did that come from? I mean,
how many knockdowns, Harold, took place before the fight got stopped? Was it 3?
Was it 3?
I think it was like 3, man. I think he took 2 knees, 3 knees, something like that. I can't recall now, but I'm pretty sure it was like 3 before they stopped it. 3 knockdowns. And yeah, man, I mean, and every single one of them was with that right hand, that loopy right hand right around the guard. And part of it was because he didn't have an angle on his jab, Harold. Joe Smith did not use the proper angle on the jab. And so because he wasn't using the jab properly, he was exposed, especially on the
absolutely. A friend of mine who is very good with breaking down the boxing, who I get a lot of information and makes me think quite a bit. He said the same thing, that jab just wasn't utilized properly. And I said, it's never will be, because that's not in his toolbox.
Right. No, absolutely. I agree with you. I think you're right. And I think, the question now becomes, what happens to Joe Smith? What does he do next? Where does he go? Where does his career go? And he's got some thinking to do about that. It'll be very, very interesting to see how the next couple of months, I don't think he's done. But I definitely think, it's worth thinking about what's next. Because, I mean, Beterbiev obliterated him, man. Just destroyed him.
True. He'll get some great paydays. Promoters will still want to work with him. He may get some major undercard type stuff. As he continues to fight, if he starts to decline some, he'll be an excellent gatekeeper, that type of thing. So he's still got some legs in him. There's no disgrace getting knocked out by the gentleman who has the highest knockout percentage in boxing right now, 18-0, 18 knockouts within the 5 rounds, whatever it is. He has whatever record. So certain things you give a pass. Canelo lost to Floyd, you give a pass. Right. Certain fighters, they lose, you get a pass. I think he gets a pass on this one because he just got beat. And if I'm a promoter, I'm like, hey, you went there and gave it all. You went there and gave it all. You wasn't tentative. You went in there, you just got clipped. I'll reward you and give him a fight. These sanctioning bodies, they don't mind having him. And I must say, in our climate, in this world, he is a Caucasian fighter. Right. And Caucasian fighters tend to do better at the box office because that's the major population of our world in America is, Caucasian gentlemen. So, and they want to see someone like them in the ring. And that type of thing always helps. It's just marketing and you just using what was available. Right. And he has this great style. It's beautiful style.
I don't necessarily agree with that statement about the Caucasian fighter because look, I was at the dude, Harold, listen, bro, I was at the fight with Tank Davis and Rolly Romero. And if anything's going to debunk that is being at that fight, man. They sold out the Barclays Center.
Oh yeah,
Tank Davis is freaking, that guy has such a following.
Yes, yes. But from a promoter standpoint, from that type of standpoint, that just helps the overall situation. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, please understand what I'm saying. I'm just saying that, that is marketing, and he will always have opportunity. He should always have opportunity just because of that situation that he's afforded. Yeah. Right. And that's all I'm saying. So even when he goes on the club circuit, when he's no longer on television, he's going to be a heck of a draw on the club circuit for the next 5 years if he digresses to that.
Right. Yeah, no, I know, I get what you're saying, but I still don't subscribe to that narrative, man. I think that the African fighter, to be, African fighters are phenomenal, bro. Like African fighters are,
Now the Hispanic fighters are too. Now they're the bulk of the fan base in the world is that the Hispanic fan.
No, because we love our fight. I mean, boxing is the number one sport in Puerto Rico. Is the number one sport in a lot of Latin American or Latin countries. That boxing is what's up. But my thing is look at Floyd. Floyd's the wealthiest, richest boxer in the history of the sport.
But he was a foil. He made himself a foil. Everyone hated him. They wanted him to lose. They wanted him to win. So that's a good point. Yeah. So he went ahead and he negated the ethnic thing totally. He was just a bad guy, and a bad guy.
I think he's a great guy. I think that was all show. Oh, yeah. Circumstance, right?
Oh, of course. I believe he said something that he saw how it was another fighter or something that promoted him to do that. It's like Ali saw Gorgeous George with "I'm the greatest" kind of thing.
I would just can I just touch on that because
please.
You just triggered it, man. So what you're talking about is that he used to, when he was a kid, he used to watch a television program called The Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous with Robin Leach, and everybody on the program, people tuned into that program because they wanted to see the lifestyles of the rich and famous. And what rich and famous people live like, and what cars they drive, and where they live, and the American public is fascinated with being wealthy. Like it's a narrative that people are chasing, trying to capture. And so Floyd was brilliant in going, you know what? They want to see that. We're going to give them that. We're going to give them the lifestyles of the rich and famous, and I'm going to be that villain for them, and I'm going to cash in on the bank. I mean, I'm not speaking for Floyd. I'm just simply saying that that's the impression that I got from the many years of watching him, that, he just really understood the market.
He rose above the ethnic thing. Totally. That allowed him to rise above that and galvanize everyone.
I mean, he had
to spend their money.
Yeah, he's playing golf with all these Warren Buffett or whatever he does with Warren Buffett, and he understood. He just he's just on a different level as a businessman, different level as a fighter, different level as a marketing genius. You gotta give Floyd Mayweather the props that he deserves for what he was able to create and what he continues to create, as far as being a bankable star, a bankable, marketable star in America. Everybody knows in America. Everybody knows around the world. Floyd Mayweather Jr. People know that name. They know that name more than they know, Gennady Golovkin or, Dog Bay or, I don't know, Joshua. People don't know those guys the same way, although Joshua can pack in, 180,000 people in the Wembley Stadium or whatever the numbers are. He's
on that continent. That's true. But
Joshua's,
But we're talking about how Joe Smith has his advantages and that he should be successful going forward, even with this loss.
Yes. And let us not digress. You're absolutely right, Harold. Thank you for pulling me back in, reeling me back in with the fishing line. And yeah, man. So here we go. Here's my brief but exciting upcoming events, boxing events for June, July, and August, September, right? So I'm just going to name a couple of them that I think are really, really worth watching. Watching. So we've got Rodriguez versus Orongomvisai on DAZN on June 25th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We've got the Fury versus Hunter fight, which, by the way, is postponed. Not sure what's going on there. That's another podcast, right? We got Chisora versus Pulyev on DAZN, again, July 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let's see who else we got here. We got Garcia versus Fortuna on DAZN on July 16th at 9 p.m. And Garcia is, he definitely understands how to get his name out there.
Yes.
He's talking a lot of smack about Tank, right? I don't really know that. Again, that's our next podcast. We will cover that. We will get into Ryan Garcia as he's talking about, how he's going to beat Tank and stop him. And, he's just, there's a lot of fodder coming out there. He really wants that fight. But yeah, then we got Gonzalez versus Dog Bay. That will be a great fight. That's on ESPN Plus, July 23rd. We've got Garcia versus Benavidez Jr. Showtime, July 30th, 9 p.m. That is a fight to watch.
He's moving up.
We will be covering that fight. We will be getting into, Danny Garcia. We will be getting into that fight. Also, Conlon versus Marariga on ESPN Plus, August 6th to 2 p.m. Let's see. We've got Usyk versus Joshua, which we've just touched on. Again, that's August 20th, 2 p.m. We've got Ruiz versus Ortiz on Fox pay-per-view, September 4th at 9 p.m. So that, and then of course, we're going to round out September. The middle of September will be Canelo Alvarez versus Gennady Golovkin. Number 3 on DAZN pay-per-view, September 17th. Tune in. Do not miss it. It is at 9 p.m. I promise you will not be sorry. Get that fight. That is going to be an amazing fight. I cannot wait. September cannot come soon enough, although I will tell you, Harold, I am enjoying the summer. How's your summer going?
Man, it's nice and hot. And being from the West,
yes,
I enjoy the heat. People say you are crazy, but I like the heat.
Yeah, man, I love the heat too. That's why I love in the gym. I love being in the gym and I love the hot temperatures and, it doesn't bother me at all. Not at all. So with that being said, Harold, man, I think we just we rounded out this show, just about ready to say good night and holler at our people out there. Thank you for tuning in. If you are watching on on YouTube, thank you for being with us. Share, like. Make sure you subscribe down below. We appreciate that very much. Thank you, Harold. And if you are listening on your drive or wherever you're going on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, thank you for being with us. And on behalf of Harold Hunt, I'm Mark Roxey. Thank you for being with us, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode of the Boxing Breakdown. Peace.
Fight fans, join host Mark Roxey and special guests as they break down all aspects of the boxing world, including news, business, management, training, promotions, fan reactions, upcoming events, matchups, future boxing stars, title fights, state of the boxing world, and all the stuff you don't see when you watch boxing. This podcast is released each week on Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Live streamed on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook Live. It's the Boxing Breakdown, hosted by Mark Roxey.